Hi, everybody. Welcome to Life Made Easier podcast. I'm Dr. Tiffany Hunter. I'm a healer in the United States, and this podcast is really all about how to understand healing, energy, consciousness, how those things work together, and how we can use them in our everyday life to make things easier.
And I'm Dr. Karen Janes, a healer and psychologist in the UK. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about why a lot of the changes that we need to make or the things we need to do to help us with problems we might encounter or things we're working on can end up feeling really repetitive and boring, like doing the dishes, 100 times a year or more. And these things just end up being really hard to maintain. And what can we do about that? So we're going to talk about that, dig into that today to help support you with the purpose of the Life Made Easier podcast, which is to become more aware of your energy, more of an energy person in the world, and what are the things you can do, but mostly how do you keep doing them when they just feel, I'm doing this thing again.
Yeah, I think it is an issue for everybody because I think everybody has the same brain and everybody's brain wants novelty.
Mm-hmm.
Novelty and excitement and new ideas and those aha moments. And I think we've all had that experience where you read this quote or you go on a retreat and you're like, yes, this is it. And then there's no real change that comes of that. It's exciting for the moment, but fast forward 4 days or 4 weeks and you're really right back where you started. And it is unfortunate that the only solution to that is repetition, repetition, repetition. And most of the things that need to be repeated are not very exciting.
Yeah, although I heard an interesting theory about that the other day, about how as humans we've evolved. So way back when, the brain that was constantly looking for novelty was the one that survived. You spotted the tiger lurking in the bushes, or you noticed the plant that was growing that was edible that you hadn't seen for a while, or the berries had just appeared on that bush, which are good ones that will give you some of the sugar you don't get otherwise in your diet, etc., etc. So that's the like hunter type brain that
Right.
and you need people who are kind of doing that kind of scanning. Then we started farming, and you kind of needed people who were then happy to do the same thing over and over, to do more forward planning, to look at the longer term goals and not just the immediate kind of like,
Your tone of voice when you say that.
this is not me. um, yeah, and there's, to a degree, there are different types of brains that, and one might be better suited to one of those ways of doing things, and one better suited to the other way of doing things. And I mean, this was in reference to neurodivergent brains and neurotypical brains. And I think there's loads, that would be a whole other podcast, loads we don't understand about that. But then we live in a world now where we have all this kind of almost like artificial stuff, like the dopamine from the scrolling and the constant buy stuff, acquire stuff. You walk into a supermarket, there's a special offer here and a special offer there, and it's kind of relentless. But we get used to that kind of new thing, and the quick fix and the supplement that's going to cure all your ails and all of those things which are constantly selling to us. You need to be, don't do the same things, don't it's really tedious, just drink more water. Or am I still drinking more water? I drank water yesterday and the day before, still today I have to keep drinking more water to keep hydrated. These things are...
So how have our brains changed? You were saying that you feel like this is new information they're coming up with, or how we shift back? Because I'd love that.
Not so much that our brains have changed, but that our lifestyle has changed.
Oh, yes.
And so,
yes.
There are some people who I think we might be able to think of people in our lives who would be better suited to being that more farmer type mentality, and then other people in our lives, and you might recognize this in yourself as well, who are much more would suit the hunter lifestyle. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it's, our brains are lagging behind because we're still
Yeah.
We're really slow to evolve in that respect. Our lifestyle has moved and changed way faster than the way our biology has evolved.
Yeah. Well, here's how for me that I think is proof positive that this is about how our brain chemistry works and not about our personality or even about the content of the habits that we need to be cultivating. Because we're not talking, you and I at least, we're not talking about doing the dishes. We're not talking about drinking water more. We're talking about learning how to do an energy healing technique on yourself called Reiki and putting hands on yourselves and generating Reiki energy. We're talking about learning how to clean your aura and doing that a number of times a day. We're learning about how to protect your aura, how to recognize karma in your life, how to recognize, we're talking about magic,
Mm-hmm.
right? About magic, but even the magic gets boring and repetitive, which to me tells you it's got nothing to do with the thing itself. It's got to do with how our brains work and how everything gets repetitive and boring.
Yeah, if we do it enough, it loses it becomes normal, doesn't it? And it loses its kind of interest.
Yeah.
But also the other part to that, I think, is the idea of something which is magic is, it's not like the movies generally most of the time. So we get, we see these amazing feature films with fire-breathing dragons that people can control with their minds, and these amazing things that people do, or they're reading energy and it's like physically visible, swirly colors or sparks shooting out my hands, or like that kind of stuff. That's not real world. That's fantasy, right? We have a genre name for it. That's fantasy.
Yeah.
Just like most people's lives are not like an action movie
or a rom-com.
Or a rom-com. Yeah, it's like those.
A rom-com is not indicative of how romance and relationships actually work in the long-term real world.
Yeah, none of those things are actually real. I mean, unless you're watching a documentary or you know, it's so I think that is also like our idea about it. Like I think Reiki is one of the best examples probably we have of, like, we actually teach people to connect with this energy that can come out their hands. Many people, I think, are maybe even a little bit disappointed, like, oh, I can't see sparks flying out my hands, or it's quite subtle, and it can really take time for a lot of people to be able to feel that energy, and you have to keep doing it. Kind of like you have to keep drinking water to stay hydrated. You have to keep doing Reiki. You can't just do a Reiki attunement and go, wow, that was amazing, I had a great time. Now I don't have to go away and use my Reiki every day in order to get some benefit, or at least most days.
I haven't seen it with Reiki. I have to say, I haven't seen it with Reiki. I think, I haven't seen it with Reiki. But the thing that I see it the most with is the aura. Right? People want to. I do a monthly gathering in my office called Living Energy Lab, and every month we get together and we do, real world experiments. And so the last one, like, what do we want to do? I was thinking we could do aura, and we often actually follow the content of the podcast.
Oh, cool!
And so it's fun. It's new. We just started it. So I was thinking, let's have everybody listen to the episode that we did on auras, and then we could do that one. We just did energy sensitivity a few weeks ago. But everybody's preoccupation was wanting to see them.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't even know if we talked about that in the episode, maybe a little bit. But, they all want to, and it was so moving how earnest and excited everybody was about it. But what they're excited about is they want to have this experience where they're staring at somebody, and then superimposed like clothing over that person is their aura, so that they can tell people if their aura is purple or pink or blue or whatever. And I was just so struck by the difference in the tone and the curiosity that was internally motivating them versus what our episode was like. And a little insecure, I was like, I don't know that you're going to enjoy this episode, because that's not really what we're talking about, because you and I are always focused on function and how, you know, your aura is your useful organ to keep other people's energy out and a sense organ to feel the world. It doesn't really matter what color it is.
Right. And we know that it's changing all the time anyway. So
Exactly.
it doesn't,
Right.
doesn't
And
really
you're
tell you
looking at all
anything.
7 auras through the other, I mean, all 7 layers through the other layers. So all the colors are undulating and changing anyway. So,
Yeah, I don't know about you, but when I'm working with someone's aura, I hardly ever think about color.
yeah,
I
no,
just, yeah, it
no.
just,
Texture,
yeah.
right?
How,
Texture, where the holes are, where it's thin.
yeah, there's a sort of consistency to it. Does it
Hmm.
feel kind of solid and kind of robust, I suppose, or does it feel kind of thin and stretched and yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's also something in there about trusting. It's like when sometimes when we learn a new skill, initially it can unless it's something we pick up really, really quickly, it's quite hard work. As you know, Tiffany, lots of people listening may not. I spend quite a bit of time working with young people with kind of special educational needs, and a lot of them are kids who've really struggled in school because of trouble paying attention and also fear of failure. So there's all those kind of layers of stuff. Like we try something, if I didn't get it immediately, I'm going to go, oh, that's too hard, that's boring, I can't do that. Because and most things that we learn we have to do repeatedly before we our body can learn it, our mind can understand it, we can get a feel for it before it
Hmm.
becomes kind of second nature. And then sometimes we can do it without really thinking about it, like driving a car. We could, you know, there's lots about driving a car that you get to stop thinking about once you've got most of the time, once you've got really skilled at it or familiar with it. But it's and with the whole energy stuff, we're also asking people to use a part of themselves that maybe they don't have a lot of confidence in or knowledge of or
Yes.
awareness of, which also can put barriers, I think, to doing. Oh, I tried to feel the energy of a tree. I wasn't really sure. I didn't, you know, I don't know if I was just making up in my head. I don't know if I was really getting anything. Did I feel different? I don't know. Oh, I just like that's too hard.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So this is a complete tangent from what we're talking about today, but just to, because it's fun to talk about. Um, so I decided to do it for the aura to find videos that either gross people out when they're watching or are super cute, like puppies and babies and things like that, and get people to stand in each other's aura blindly while one person's watching the video and the other person can feel what's happening, kind of like, you know, back to back, chair to chair kind of
Mhm.
thing. We'll see if it works.
That sounds like a fun experiment.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, like, you know, so for most of these folks that are coming, and I know most of them, this is going to be new. And I wonder, and then you know, I'll teach them how to clean themselves afterwards.
Mhm.
And it will be curious to see how many of them learn it, love it, and then are still doing it in 6 months.
Yeah. I was thinking about something like brushing our teeth, right? Most of us learn that when we're really young. Most of us probably can barely even remember learning to do that. And it sort of becomes, for most people, that it's such an ingrained habit. A lot of the time, you barely even think about doing it. And as we get, but it's like, I mean, that's a super tedious thing to do, right? We have to do it every day, ideally twice a day, over and over and over again. It's not very fun. It's not very stimulating. Okay, sometimes there's a little bit more of a, oh, my mouth feels nicer, but it's not really a big dopamine hit to brush your teeth when you've done it a million times. Yet we do it. But with that, it's like we've really signed up to the value of it and the, well, it's just something I have to do.
Okay, but can we tease that out for a second? Because I would argue that we didn't sign up for the value of that. Our parents did.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, excuse me, I think I would argue as somebody that had to get kids to brush their teeth, like it's an incredible effort to get them to value it. They have no value of it because it has no immediate repercussion. Even when they got a cavity and you could, when they were older, and then you could put the two together and say, see, this is why we do this. It doesn't last for any length of time. And partly because they're tall infants and they don't have a frontal lobe yet. But I think it's also human nature, right? Unless it has an immediate thing, right? So I think that's a great example. But I also think that's a great example of things that have become so ingrained that it feels weird if we don't do them.
Right.
But I don't know that it's a great example of things that we as adults have decided to value.
Because it's actually really hard, I think, as adults to make things as solid as brushing our teeth is.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like because it happened somehow, because someone else made us do it enough times before we were even really aware of it. Most of us carry on doing it. But yeah, it's really hard. Things we learn later, it's really hard to make them that solid.
So I have some examples of success. Tell me what you think. I have really perfected the knack of tidying up after myself before I move on to the next thing.
Ooh, nice. Can you teach me?
So the people, yourself included, really know I'm a little bit of a neat freak. And I think the value that I've come out of that is because I really don't want it to pile up. And I never want to get to a place where I have to put so much effort into doing that. So I've deeply internalized the value of doing a little bit at a time so that it doesn't pile up. But I don't know that I can tell you when that switch happened or why that switch happened. Except it was an adult thing. It wasn't a childhood thing.
Yeah, there's a kind of I can imagine things that I wish I felt that way about, and it's like I can't. Where is that switch? I can't make. So then it often feels like you're pushing a boulder uphill with it. Or when you do the thing that you know is good for you, it's like you've forced yourself, and then you forget again, and oh, I can't be bothered today, or yeah.
Right. The energy equivalent of that for me, and I'm pretty sure this is true for you, is that I'm pretty consistent about doing my Reiki self-care every day. But the great thing about Reiki is it could not have been made easier for me because I can do it while I'm watching television. I can do it while I'm driving. I can do it while I'm having a conversation, right? Like I only need one hand. I don't need two. But even two hands sitting on the couch at night, reading a book. But I remember a time when I first learned it a zillion years ago where it took effort to do that.
Yeah. And I
eventually
actually,
it flipped.
mostly I am like you, pretty consistent, but I have still had times where I realized I've been a little bit less kind of consistent about it. And I think that's often, see, this is an interesting one because I think that's sometimes when life is feeling a bit difficult. And I think sometimes it's hard, it can be hardest to do the things we know are good for us and will help us when we most need them. I think that's a pretty universal human experience. So we start exercising less, we drink less water, we eat more rubbish food, we, et cetera, when we really most need to be doing those things. So it can slide a bit. But it's almost like we have to make ourselves do it often enough. I think we do have to have a sense of what is the point in me doing this. So doing a regular Reiki practice, cleaning my aura with some degree of regularity, those things, I have to feel like I understand the reason why I'm doing that, but that understanding isn't by itself enough. I think it helps. We have a value for that. It's not just someone else told me it would be good for me. That's not enough, I don't think.
No, no, no. You're right. The value has to come first. I think the pleasure in doing it has to come first. But here's where
Hmm.
you and I, in our world, we do have, we're not talking about doing the dishes. We're talking about the things that people have often put effort and financial resources into learning. So
Yeah.
they are things that are fun, things that are enjoyable. It's just how do we get over that neurological hump that our species has? Do you know what I think made the Reiki difference when I listened to you talk? I think when I got really serious about my Reiki practice, I had a short commute home from my office. And what I got into the habit was I got into the car on the way home. I did Reiki as I drove. I went to work in the morning. I did Reiki. I woke up the morning. I hit snooze. I did Reiki in the morning while my alarm was on snooze, and I did it on the way home in the car. And I think the reason why that was so successful is what you made me think of, which is it wasn't dependent upon my mood. It was
Hmm.
dependent upon my almost external behavior.
Hmm. Well, I
So it
guess
wasn't whether or not sorry.
I was just going to say that you're describing something very much like brushing our teeth. We tend to have a point in the morning, in the evening, in our kind of getting up and leaving the house or getting ready for bed, going to bed when we brush our teeth. And I don't know if this is the case for you, but I know occasionally for me, if I have a day where I'm not leaving the house as normal, that would probably be the day I'd forget to brush my teeth and realize I got to lunchtime and I hadn't brushed my teeth. Whereas I
Yes.
almost never leave the house without brushing my teeth because that's one of the
It's
last things
just
I
part of
do.
the routine.
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
so value first. Do I understand why I'm doing this and how it contributes into my life? And then secondarily, what am I attaching it to in my daily routine that happens every day and is fairly non-negotiable? I drive home from work whenever I'm working.
yeah, pairing it with another
Pairing it with
activity
something.
that you already
Yeah.
do very regularly, I think is one of the yeah. I used to see a chiropractor, and she always used to give me, people are notoriously bad at doing the exercises that their chiropractor, their osteopath, their physiotherapist gives them to do. She would always give me things to do when I was sat on the toilet. She's like, women sit on the toilet, how many times a day? When you're doing that, do this. So if you pair it with something that you
Hmm.
already do really, really routinely, that massively helps. I actually recently added a new Reiki time. I bought a heated eye mask that I've been taking a bit of time because my eyes get really dry, and it's sort of helping with the keeping the oils in my eyes. So I've started doing that, and you can't do much else when you have an eye mask on.
Right.
You can't like scroll on your phone, you can't watch TV, you can't read, you can't, so I've been doing some Reiki on myself, and my eye mask even has a little timer on it for 15 minutes.
Oh,
So then it switches off and I'm like, okay, I've done 15 minutes of Reiki. That's while I'm, laying in bed in the morning or the evening.
right. That's
So that,
fantastic. I usually pair cleaning aura, having somebody clean their aura when they're going to the bathroom for
mm,
that exact reason. I love that. Or a pendulum. We've talked about the pendulum techniques in
hmm
previous podcasts, which is so just, for people that we don't want to use too many shorthands, but Reiki is a method of cleaning your energy and repairing, even more specifically, repairing the energy of the day when it's been kind of beaten up with wear and tear for the day. Cleaning your aura and protecting your aura is how you keep people out of your aura so that you're just you and not other people. And the pendulum technique is a method for balancing the mind with the body. So it helps with calming of the mind. It can help with anxiety. And it's also a great thing to do on the toilet. Look, you're sitting there, you're vertical. And even if you're in a public toilet, you've got a stall.
hmm hmm
You can take 30 seconds.
One of the things that I do with the kids I work with, because we're working around horses, is a lot of them I encourage them before we go in with the horses or before we approach them to take 3 deep breaths to just feel their feet in the floor.
Mm.
Because a lot of energy awareness, which is really important around horses and regulating our own nervous system and all of that kind of stuff, requires us to be in our bodies. You can't begin tuning in to energy, your own energy or energy around you, if you're solely up in your head or if you're in a really activated state. It's much easier if you're relaxed and grounded and in your body, because then you can more easily receive the information that's coming in and
Yeah.
be aware of yourself. So even just that pause, okay, how am I feeling? And again, I think we live in a world that doesn't encourage us to do that. And it's really hard for a lot of us to tolerate even being in our bodies. What might I feel? I can't, like, my mind is so inflamed that I
Hmm.
can't come down into my body. And that takes boring, repetitive, mundane, making yourself do it, as you say, pairing it with going to the bathroom, or,
Hmm.
every time you come in or go out of the house, every time you switch tasks, whatever would work for you to get those things happening and to help you remember to do it.
Here's what I wish we could do, and I don't know if it's realistic. I wish we could pair habits with an internal state, so that every time we got anxious or agitated or irritated with somebody else, we would clock and go, oh, I bet I've got somebody else's energy inside me. I should clean my aura. Or, oh, I wonder if this is really what I'm feeling, or if I'm absorbing this from everything around me. I should probably sage the room. And we have talked about that pairing a number of times, and it's a gorgeous one. And I do think with effort it can happen, but it is the pairing that I think is most inconsistent and the hardest, and in some ways the most sophisticated, because those things are the things that really will keep us focused as creatures of energy and seekers of energy, but are totally the antithesis of how our species neurology and brain works.
Yeah.
Because, kind of by definition, if I'm feeling irritated by everything happening around me, it's so easy to blame them.
Hmm.
It's so hard for me to stop and go, whoa. Or if I'm feeling anxious, it's so easy for me to say, oh, I'm having an anxious episode. And then somehow, that's all about me. But to stop and say, wait, maybe this isn't me, maybe this is them, is really going against the grain.
Yeah, although almost converse to that, I was observing, to use this example, a young person I was working with. Every time she got anxious around the horses, she was trying to reassure the horse,
Wow.
because she wasn't really able to recognize in that moment that it was her that was anxious.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of talked about it a bit, and imagine if someone you're with is feeling anxious and they start going to you, it's okay, you're fine, and you're like, hang on a minute, like, I'm okay, what's going on with you? But I think that
Right.
idea of we can tend to swing a bit between it's all me or it's all them,
Mm-hmm.
rather than that kind of self-righteous indignation, the mental reactions that we've talked about in other episodes of, it's all that person's fault and they've done this and they've made me really angry and it's
Right.
therefore I'm angry. And it can be hard to get out that loop, that mental loop. But equally, that's almost like depression. A kind of in a more depressed state, we might, oh, it's my fault again, I'm the bad one,
Yeah.
inner critic
Yeah.
really gets going, rather than us being able to be more, when we start noticing that internal struggle, okay, am I balanced in myself? Can I use that pendulum visualization to really try and bring myself into a state of balance that might help me remember, actually, I just went to the supermarket. Maybe I now need
Right.
to clean my aura because I've just been walking around the supermarket and I've collected all this horrible supermarket energy. And
Right.
now I need to just take a minute and breathe. Am I even breathing? And
Right. Am I even breathing?
yeah,
Right.
and bring myself into my body and then think, okay, do I have a checklist of, am I balanced? Am I grounded? Have I cleaned my aura anytime this week? Have I used any sage? Have I done my Reiki practice? Have I tried to do any form of meditation or just
Right.
be
Even if it's
aware of
just
anything
a,
around
a
me?
30-second connection. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have talked about previously, and I'm sure we'll again, this idea of toxic positivity,
Hmm.
where people are using, just think positive and put out high vibration thoughts as a means to actually avoid and bypass a whole lot of things that are really needed to be connected to, not
Hmm.
only to release them and understand them, but actually use them as a oomph energetically to move forward.
Hmm.
But I haven't heard this, we should coin this. What is the equivalent for a kind of toxic sense of, instead of hunkering down and facing the difficulty and the pain of repetition and boring, constantly looking for the next novelty and the next dopamine hit and the next thing and the next supplement and the next insight and the next aha moment? And I think that's just as toxic and just as rampant through the spiritual community, always looking for the next 10 things you can do to get rid of your yada yada.
Although arguably that's also commercialism within the spiritual
Yes.
community,
Yes.
and in the supermarket and in the everywhere else in our lives,
Yes.
that kind of encourages us to look for the quick fix, the magic cure,
Well,
the
yeah, I mean, once you know
one
how to clean your
solution.
aura, once you know how to do it, you're not paying somebody every time your aura is clean.
Yeah,
Nobody's
yeah,
making any money off of that.
yeah.
But it really feeds into that desire to just keep looking.
Well, and again, yeah, that's us. Sometimes, sometimes perhaps not feeling like we genuinely have the skills or the knowledge we need, and sometimes perhaps dealing with the discomfort, both of the boredom and the tedium, but also the discomfort of, like, if I really stop and breathe and try and come into my body, how am I going to be feeling? What am I going to find in there? Can I
Mm-hmm.
step out of this adrenaline, go, 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 sort of energy stream in the world around me? And it's very seductive, very alluring, very tempting, powerful. It is real. It exists.
Yes.
It's not, you're not making that up. Can I step out of that and slow down and say, actually, the world isn't going to end? And again, that's kind of part of our biology, isn't it? Like, some part of me is detecting threat.
Yes.
So stepping out of that and saying there is no threat, it's a really hard thing to do, I think.
Yes. Very much so. Very much so. And also, I think something you've said that I've heard you say fairly recently is that we need to be reminded to do that.
Mm.
We need to be supported to move into those uncomfortable spaces because it's almost impossible to do them without support. And we need to be
Mhm.
reminded of the repetition.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like that's a lot what we do for our clients. I'm sure this is the case for you too. I mean, I have people who come to see me for, like, a piece of work, let's say, very regularly for a bit of time because they want help with something specific. But I have a lot of others, I've been doing this a long time now, as have you, who come back occasionally, sometimes when something's happening in their lives, but sometimes just every, I don't know, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, every year, to almost just have someone help to give them a bit of a reset and to remind them of the things that they know, and
Mm-hmm.
and acknowledging that it's hard to keep doing these things all the time
Oh,
by
sure. Hey,
ourselves.
look, my teeth are never so flossed and cleaned right before my hygienist appointment.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, I've had people come to, Reiki classes and say, or Reiki sessions. They've come for a session with me, and suddenly they've been practicing their Reiki more before the session, even though
Exactly.
they're now paying
Exactly.
me to do the Reiki. And I
Yeah.
think that, again,
Yeah.
that's just human nature, isn't it? But
Mm-hmm.
it makes me think of there's all the pieces of the puzzle, and many of us will find some aspects of that harder or easier. And often our job is kind of saying, yeah, but remember this, remember this,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh my gosh, I've neglected that for ages. How come I haven't done
Right.
that? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the very definition of maintenance appointments and preventative appointments is more therapeutic ones.
Why do we need a personal trainer? Why do we, do any of
Right.
these things? Because it's hard to keep consistent with these things by ourselves. And that could be a friend. Do you have a friend that you go to the gym with once a week, or whatever it might be? Do you have a friend who you can take a more mindful walk out in nature and actually talk about how the energy in this woodland feels different to the energy by the river over there? Or there isn't just we're going for a yomp and we're getting the exercise and we're barely even noticing the scenery or the energy shifts, or that there's so many different streams of energy around us.
Yeah. Maybe this is the time that we acknowledge publicly that this whole episode came about because we were talking about what we should talk about and feeling like we just keep repeating ourselves. And people are going to be bored with us, that we're bored with us.
Yeah. And that's where, I was saying that I listen to a lot of nutrition related podcasts, and they all say the same thing, basically. Eat real whole food, have plenty of fiber, drink water, it's all the same things. And in a way that maybe that's okay, that because there isn't this magic solution to everything, and our sort of often our things that we say, well, this will help with this, are the same kind of handful of
the
things.
same. Yeah.
That's okay.
Well, and if we want to be truly transparent, we could say that we could also acknowledge that we did this episode somewhat off the cuff because neither one of us could be bothered to do a script. Well, and to be fair, we had less time than usual to talk today. But
So
the boring, repetitive things you have to do. So hopefully it's been fine.
We're just two people having a chat about stuff that we know a little something about, and that's okay.
And that's okay. I don't know that we've given a solution to all of this. I think here is one of those examples of our species, our humanity, just being a tension that will be with us for the entirety of our lives. And for what it's worth, I'm happy to get a little poetic. I do think managing that tension is part of how we figure out who we are.
Yeah.
It never goes away. We just have to learn to be with it and figure it out, and we will succeed and we will fail over and over again.
Which is another thing that we frequently say in our podcasts. It's kind of
it is.
This is hard. Acknowledging this is hard. Try not to beat yourself up. Try to be kind to yourself. Just get back, just because you ate a few biscuits doesn't mean you have to eat the whole packet. And that's hard because sugar is really addictive. And when we hit a slippery slope, it's hard to kind of pull ourselves back and just say, do you know what? This is difficult. Other people find this difficult. This is genuinely difficult. You're not being lazy. It's not because you're missing something. It's not because you're not trying hard enough or you don't really want it. It's because it genuinely is difficult for us to stay on track with these things that aren't necessarily giving us a lot of really immediate reward, because they're everyday mundane kind of things.
Yes. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Please support us. You can go find us on Patreon, which means we get a little bit of cash. I think it's $5 a month, but also means you get all kinds of those experiments that you can try at home. Goodness knows what we'll do here for at-home experiments, but we'll figure it out. We do one for every podcast. But actually, the way that you can most support us is by interacting with us. We love getting the questions that we hear from Carol, what you guys have sent. I think it's hello@yourenergylife.com. You can, but yeah, please interact us. Let us know what you think. We really want to know about that.
And if you know somebody who wants to look after themselves a little bit better and be kinder to themselves, then share our episodes too, because that will really help us to get a wider audience. Thank you for joining us today.
Bye, everybody.